Good, good. I'm learning Zoom, as we all are. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see all of you. My name is Gracie. I'm the ASPLU president this year. There are lots of ASPLU folks in this room. There are folks from RHA. Good to see you, Hezi. I'm sure there are others. I just can't see everyone on my screen at once. We also have lots of staff members and advisors here. I see a couple of our advisors. I see Luke. I think I saw Cassie come in at one point. So there are lots of folks here to introduce. But since I will be doing the bulk of the talking here at the beginning, and I want us to all kind of know each other a little bit, I have some things maybe we can do in the chat for a brief introduction. So if you could, in the chat right now, put your name, your pronouns, if you're an ASPLU or not, because I think it's important if folks know where you're from, what you're up to. So if that's relevant to you or RHA or whatever, feel free to stick that in the chat. And then finally, what song is giving you spring vibes right now? I'm looking to bulk up my playlists, so I want to know what you're listening to. If you're still in a bit of a winter mood, feel free to indicate that. But yeah, let's do some introductions so folks can know who is here right now. And I'm gonna keep an eye on it. Okay. Evermore, of course, yeah. Gimme, good, okay. I'm waiting for more songs to trickle in, y'all. I'm telling you, this is how I'm bulking up my playlists. Caden said Chasing Pavements by Adele, which is our ASPLU favorite song, is Chasing Pavements by Adele. More folks are trickling in. That's why we're spending some time doing this. Also still listening to Evermore. I'm also still listening to Evermore. This is good. This is good stuff. Okay, very good. Feel free to interact. This is just as folks are kind of trickling in.
Gracie, should I share Poppy? She's here.
Oh, please do. Please do. Put your pets on screen. Yes.
Y'all, this is one of my two cats. Her name is Poppy. She doesn't like looking at the screen, so she's not going to want to do it. Poppy, look over here. Maybe I can get her to do it. Okay, she doesn't. Yes. No, don't look at me. Look over there. Yes, she's upside down. You can see her face upside down. Yeah, that's Poppy. Oh God, now my computer's going to fall.
It was worth it. It was worth it, Zachary. Yeah. Anybody else have pets in the room with them right now? My dog is at home in Olympia. I'm up in Tacoma. Otto's my stand-in dog. Good. Okay, stuff's coming in the chat. This is incredible. Let me get started so we can use our time to its full potential here. So again, thank you so much for coming. This is something that happened so quick. It was thrown together pretty quickly, and a lot of times that's how ASPLU operates, is doing things in response to what's going on campus, responding to things that we hear about from students, and in this case, responding to a process that's been happening for a while now, and recognizing where the gaps might be in that. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I want to explain kind of what we're looking at doing today. So first, I'm going to give like a few remarks about why we're doing this, kind of similar to what I just shared. And then I prepared a timeline. Believe me, we're not going to spend the first half hour doing presentations, but I did prepare a timeline that I think will be really helpful context for us as we move forward in this conversation, because as your official student representatives, we want to provide you with the information that we've been given and the information that we've given to the administrations and the decision makers, so you can get a full picture of what's been going on. And then we can open up some time for questions if folks have questions for me, for members of my team, for some of the other student leaders here, and also for the staff that are here. And then we're going to move into breakout conversations, just like small group discussions about some of the questions we have on the Jamboard. The Jamboard was sent out to some folks, but we'll put a link in the chat. Actually, Cece, I see you on my screen. Do you want to drop the Jamboard link in the chat? Feel free to open it up and take a look at it and leave some comments as we get going. But really what we're doing here, it's an opportunity to organize, to talk about key points and things that are important to students. So this is an information gathering and space and an opportunity to create shared understanding, which we all know is very important and is especially important right now. So this meeting is being recorded, and this recording will be up on the ASPLU website whenever I figure out how to do that. I haven't really operated with the Zoom recordings, uploading it somewhere, but I think folks will be able to help me. Maybe the Engage ambassadors and Tina will be able to help me, and Cassie too. So we'll get it up, and you can share that with folks. You can also go back and watch these slides. If y'all are interested in having them, you can shoot me an email. I'll share them with you, just so we can all be on the same page. And you've done your great introductions. Hopefully folks have indicated what groups they're a part of also, which I think is helpful information. We're doing this because we want a student-led conversation about FJC. It was made really clear early on to ASPLU and to students as a whole that the FJC process doesn't really have a place for student voice in it. So really our role as students is to stay informed about it, because there are going to be big changes on campus as a result of this process. And if we don't know that that's happening and we come back to campus in fall, there's going to be a little bit of a disaster, you know? So at this point, as students and as student representatives, our role is to stay informed and inform each other. But we've identified that there's been a lack of clear communication thus far. So this is a space where we can share those issues, share maybe some conversation about the forum a couple weeks ago. I assume a lot of you, most of you were in attendance because it was a pretty big group of folks. So we can spend some time talking about that as well. But at this point, I want to see if anybody has anything they need to jump in with, any clarifying information. We're still admitting people to the room, so if I repeat myself, that is why. Thanks, Tina. Okay, I think if not, we can get started. Something exciting is we'll see if my my laptop overheats, because when I share screen, it kind of has a habit of doing that. But we'll launch into this set of slides. Okay, folks can see my little slides right here. I'll put it in present mode. Can people see that okay? Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go through this so quick, so we're not spending the whole time me talking at y'all. But I do think this is really important context to establish really early on. Context is so important to me. I love it. I think it's important for decision making and for informing each other. So we're gonna spend some time on it. If any folks wanna jump in with clarifying information, hey, I mean, there's only 50 of us in the room, so I think there's definitely an opportunity to do that. Again, I'm the ASPLU president. If I should probably change my name on here or something, but that's where this is coming from. So this is coming from my perspective. I didn't get a chance to see if Carlos has hopped in yet, but I especially invite Carlos to jump in and give some context information. So all this got started, at least relevant to us, in November. Some of these points I borrowed from President Belton's list of slides, but other pieces are things that we've added and elaborated on. So the Budget Advisory Committee is a university committee. And it's comprised of staff, a couple student representatives. I believe there are members of the administration and also a few faculty members potentially. So that's who make up Budget Advisory Committee. And there are some folks in this call who are on Budget Advisory Committee. Our two student advisory members, which were appointed by ASPLU, are Kenzie Knapp, ASPLU's Sustainability Director, and AJ Moore, ASPLU's Finance Director. So we have students who are in that room in that conversation. Most of the conversations that happen there are confidential. So I don't even have any details about what this FJC conversation looked like, but we do know that it happened. And the Budget Advisory Committee ultimately ended up recommending the FJC. And so from then on, Carlos and I really first became informed on the 25th of November, when we had our regular advising meeting with our advisors, Vice President of Student Life, Joanna Royce Davis. Tom, you're Assistant Vice President of Residential Life, is that what it is? Is that close? Almost. You can look Tom Hulsbeck up on the website and figure out what his real title is, but it's something similar to that. And then Tina Moeller, who's our ASPLU advisor, our primary one. And so we had an advising meeting where we were told about the FJC announcement. I believe it was the day before that University Assembly was informed, University Assembly, which consists of the faculty and staff. And so then we got this information. Of course, some other students in ASPLU were already aware that this was happening, including our folks on Budget Advisory Committee. But this was the first official notice that we got of it. And that's November. I want to highlight this is November, and now we are in February. So from there, we informed our ASPLU team of directors. Directors are hired by ASPLU, and so it's a small group of folks. We informed them that this process was happening if they didn't already know about it. Then on the 8th of December, President Belton and Provost Joanna Gregson visited ASPLU. And I think this was mentioned in President Belton's slides, but I want to elaborate on what this meeting looked like. So we have pre-func sessions right before ASPLU meetings, and these are usually closed sections of the meeting. And I say that because there isn't a record of this in our minutes, and that's intentional. So in our pre-func, we got some information from President Belton and Joanna Gregson about what FJC is, what it looks like, and y'all are probably familiar with the FAQs. Lots of those were generated from that conversation. But additionally, right at the end of that conversation, and by then we had moved into meeting time. So this is actually reflected in our minutes, which are accessible on the ASPLU website. I believe it was Provost Gregson who asked, when should we inform the student body about this? When do you recommend? And ASPLU was a little bit divided. What we were divided about was either we could inform students right now, it's finals week, y'all. Remember, this is we're mid-December, so it's a little bit of a hectic time. We could inform students now or right at the beginning of J-term. So a number of students said, let's do now, and a number of students said the beginning of J-term. However, on Saturday is when we got our first all-campus communication, which is significantly later than the later option, which was the beginning of J-term. So I think that's really important context. We had that conversation, and ASPLU recommended get that communication out at the very latest by the beginning of J-term. And Carlos and I, in every meeting we've been in since then, have stressed that point. Communication as soon as possible is very necessary. On the 9th, we had an LRPC meeting. That stands for Long Range Planning Committee. I'm sorry there are so many acronyms and words, but I really want to give you all the clearest description possible. Long Range Planning Committee has Carlos and I on it as student representatives, but an additional student representative who is Trevor Kaitola. And this was one of our typical long range planning meetings, but I wanted to point out we have those monthly. We were also set to have our monthly meeting with President Belton this month, but it ended up being canceled for other reasons, not connected to FJC. So those are some of the regular meetings ASPLU has with the administration. Then we moved to January. We're looking at pre-J-term even starting for most of us. And we had another one of those long-range planning committee meetings. At this long-range planning committee meeting, we discussed the FJC. And Carlos, myself, and Trevor made it very clear that communication needs to go out to students as soon as possible. Like, it's already too late at this point is kind of what we established in that meeting. And we talked about how to convey this message. What are the best routes to do that? What do students want to hear right now? What information might be important in this communication? And as you all know, there was not an all-campus communication by this point. And I'm stressing this because I want to affirm to the students that we represent that we advocated for that communication to happen early. We did. We were in these rooms and we were saying that from the beginning. Also to keep in mind is we have those advisor meetings weekly, and we had conversations in those advisor meetings about getting this communication out as soon as possible, which is our connection to the administration. On the 27th of January, we had a meeting with JG, or Joanna Gregson, our provost, and that meeting was just centered around FJC. It was a 30-minute meeting, and the whole time we talked about getting a memo, a communication out to students as soon as possible. And when we ended that meeting, we felt like, okay, it'll probably happen. It's probably about time by this point. And again, that was the end of January. Here we are, nearing the end of February. So this month has been a little bit of a blur. So it took me a bit to compile this list, but I believe these are the most important points from here on out. I highlight the petition in this not because ASPLU is a sponsor of the petition or particularly advocated for it. In my role as a student and not as ASPLU president, I did help co-author the petition and share it around. But when 160 plus students sign on to something, it is our job as ASPLU to represent those students when a large group of students do that. So I want to clarify that as well. So the petition that we're talking about here is a petition that was organized by a group of students asking for basically three things: clear, constant communication about FJC, elements of DJS being a part of the FJC decision process, and finally, making sure that faculty interests are supported and that the faculty recommendations that come out are the ones that are prioritized. So the petition was delivered on the 3rd of February to President's Council, which consists of President Belton and the vice presidents and others, and to the Board of Regents. And Zachary's on the call. Zachary sent it from his email, so we have a record of that. On the 6th of February, I, along with Carlos, met with a few of the members of President's Council, including President Belton, Joanna Gregson, Provost, Vice President of Student Life, Joanna Royce Davis, VP of Advancement, I think that's Dan Lee's title. And I think that was our full group was there, and Angie Hambrick was also there as well. And in that conversation, Carlos and I expressed very clearly, again, students need to be communicated about the FJC process as soon as possible. This is very important. And even more than that, let's talk about why we haven't been communicated with yet. And this was clear in the forum as well. President Belton shared that it was out of care, not informing students about this, because there's a lot going on. Students obviously participate in this process on an information basis, not as decision makers. So that's the thought that went into not having that communication, to which Carlos and I made pretty clear that actually is not showing care. Showing care is being honest with the student body. Showing care is sharing important, hard information and having hard conversations. So that was one of the spaces in which we had that conversation again. Y'all know about the forum. I assume many of you attended it, and if you don't know, I believe the Mass just put out an article about it, so you can read some context there. Unfortunately, it was not recorded, despite my urging to have it recorded, so we had a record of it, hence why we're recording this meeting. And there was a forum planning meeting about that with the folks who were on the panel and myself on the 8th. Then on the 10th, we had the forum. I keep referencing it because it's a really pivotal point in my decision to put out a statement and to have this conversation. Sorry about that. We love GCal. And so immediately following the forum, we had a debrief at our ASPLU meeting. I think about 50 folks were in attendance there. And the main message we got from students is that they felt very unsatisfied with how the forum went. At this point, I did a lot of thinking and talking with my advisors, with Carlos, with other members of our team. And I kind of realized that my role as moderator actually put me in a pretty uncomfortable place and put ASPLU in an uncomfortable place as well. Because we weren't able to share our side of the story. We weren't able to share this information that we're sharing with you now, which is why it's so important that we're dedicating time to this, because there were so many moments where ASPLU, your student representatives, other student leaders advocated for this constant communication, and we weren't getting it, and we still hadn't really gotten it by this point. On the 19th, I received a draft of an email for the next forum. I had helped pick out the next forum date, but I didn't know what it was going to be about, the forum that's later tonight. And I was disappointed to see that the forum was going to be centered around student impact concerns like graduation, like if your classes change. Those are important, don't get me wrong, those are very important. And I urge you to go to the forum later tonight if those are questions that you have, because there's going to be a panel of some really, really smart folks at PLU to talk to you about that. But it's not the conversations or concerns that I've been hearing from my constituents, that I've been hearing from my peers, that we heard at the ASPLU debrief. Because the concerns that we heard that were still remaining were, where's the communication? Why haven't we been communicated to about this? On the 20th, which if you can believe it was only Saturday, I drafted a statement written from me, from the ASPLU president, that stated that ASPLU would no longer participate as a panelist, in a moderator role, or as a co-sponsor of any future forums that the administration sponsored. I thought long and hard about this. I had lots of discussions and conversations about this because I didn't want it to appear as though ASPLU was completely rejecting any administration, any connections with students, or any future forums, or any future conversations or communications. What it was really about was ASPLU couldn't be fairly represented in the forum that they had organized. And I did not believe, and I still do not believe, that the forum tonight will address the needs and concerns that students have right now. So that is where my forum came from, or my statement came from, and that statement is on the ASPLU website if you'd like to view it. So that's how we end up here. I hope that caught you all up. Again, I'm happy to share these slides, and I apologize for talking for so long because I know that's not very exciting or interesting, but I think it's really important to establish this context in order to move forward with this conversation. So at this point, I would like to invite any folks to ask questions that they have. If anyone feels as though I missed some important context, I know there's a lot of people in this room, but I'm still kind of running this like an ASPLU meeting where you can share thoughts you have. I think that's really important that we don't miss anyone. So does anyone have any questions? You can use chat or something. It might not be best to just unmute so we can still maintain some order, but what do we think? Do we have any thoughts or questions about that? Okay. Okay, great. Again, all of this information will be available on the website and in our social media communications. And at this point, what we want to do is talk about it. We want to talk about, what does communication look like? Carlos and I and others have been going into these meetings saying we want communication, but we don't really know exactly what the students want or need out of that. So at this point, let's break out into some breakout rooms to have that conversation. I know breakout room, I know this is not a class, I know that, but a really important part of doing this type of work is having conversations and engaging with your peers. And it might not be the most fun, but it's very, very important. Okay, I know I see faces. I'm like, are we really doing a breakout room? Yes, we are, because we need to chat. We need to chat with each other. I'm also gonna say, I'm gonna randomize the breakout rooms, but if advisors could stay out of breakout rooms and hang out in this main room, that would be awesome. So any staff members or anything, these are student conversations. So I'll invite you all to have those. Again, it's gonna be a little bit awkward, but it's really important. So there are 5 rooms and I'm gonna send y'all to them if that's all right. I know. Breakout rooms. This is not like being in person, but we're gonna chat, okay? And on the Jamboards, there are, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Jamboards. I use them so often that I feel like it's like second nature now, but the Jamboards each have different slides, and you can use sticky notes and comment things and have conversations. There'll be someone in each of your rooms that will know what a Jamboard is and will be able to kind of walk you through using them, even if it's just ASPLU folks. And we can put comments and have conversations with each other and come back together at 6:20 to look over those and find some big takeaways. I see you, Cece. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I think folks are asking a little clarification on what specifically we're talking about in the breakout rooms. If you could go over what's on the Jamboards.
Yeah, why don't I just share screen? That might be the easiest way to do it. Y'all wouldn't believe how many tabs I have open. It's just full of all the stuff. Okay, let me open up this Jamboard so I can show y'all, because I already see comments coming in, which is perfect. Okay, can we see the Jamboard? It's there. Okay, so Cece and Kenzie prepared these Jamboards for us. They're 2 of our ASPLU directors. And even though it's getting a little crowded, let me point out what we've got going on here. So this sticky note in the middle is kind of the prompt for what we want to talk about. And really, it's okay if you don't totally utilize the Jamboard in your conversation. It's just a tool so we can get conversation going. But what we're going to spend the first bit of time talking about is, what does clear, constant communication look like? What does it mean? What do we want out of that? And you can see some examples here. One tool that we use in ASPLU a lot is this pen tool over here. And if you really vibe with something that's on one of the sticky notes, you just put a little check, maybe one that's better than that, but you put a little check next to it, which shows that, yes, this is what you want and this is what you're interested in. This one is, what does transparency look like? This one's a real, you got to think about this, right? Especially in a PLU context, what does transparency look like? And then what do you want future FJC processes to look like? So here's an example, student representation built into the process. Currently with our FJC process, student voice isn't necessarily a part of the conversation. They use data based on what majors and minors people sign up for, but that's quantitative, which is very different from qualitative data, which is important when especially when we're at a liberal arts school. And then what do you want future general education revision processes to look like? So when we talk about changing our gen ed requirements, which will likely have to come when we cut faculty and cut programs, we're going to look at rearranging this. So what should that look like? And then finally, what are some broader demands or asks or pleas for the future? What do we want out of this conversation tonight? I certainly have a few ideas and I'll share them when we all come back together, but I want to see what you all are thinking as well, as do the rest of our team. So definitely check that out and navigate this, play around with the Jamboard. It's fun to learn how to do it anyway, but there will be someone in your group that can help support you with that. And before we head off, I do want to thank RHA for co-sponsoring and hosting this with us. Thanks for showing up and being here. It's really exciting when groups of students, coalitions of students come together to work on things like this. And again, I'm so grateful that you all showed up. Thanks for understanding that this is coming together a little bit last minute and that we're just trying to catch your thoughts and your ideas and get it all together. So at this point, I'm going to open up those breakout rooms. And again, if advisors could stay in here, staff members could stay here in the main room. Someone will be in your group who can kind of talk to you about what's going on and how to work through those questions. Are there any more questions? Cece, did that help? I was trying to go quick and be aware of time, but you forget that people need the explanation. Okay, I'm sending y'all into breakout rooms. Have fun, and I'll see you at 6:20. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for being in conversation. It's uncomfy, but it's really important. Have fun, everyone. Enjoy your breakout rooms. There's still some folks in here, which is okay. I always figure folks walk away, and then what? Hey, Luke, how's it going? Good. Thanks for coming. I was excited.
Yeah, thanks for leading.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I was excited to see you and Cassie on the Zoom sign-up sheet. I'll pause my. Welcome back.
And in addition to talking about how we can support you, we also were trying to get Cassie's recipe for salted caramel brownies, which are amazing.
That's important. That's important to discuss. Welcome back, everyone. I think we have just about everyone back in the room now, and we only have a little bit of time left. I know we're dealing with a very condensed timeline, but I didn't want to keep anyone over an hour. I thought that would be kind of ridiculous. So definitely don't expect this to be our last conversation together. When y'all signed up, I have all of your emails, so maybe you'll hear from me about future conversations like this. And if it was a little bit awkward or a little bit difficult to have this conversation, keep in mind how that's really important. And it's important that we do that and that at this point as students, we're modeling how to have tough conversations. And I'm really proud of all of us for doing that. So thank you for being here and for participating. I don't know if we'll have enough time to run through all of the things on the Jamboard because there's about a million things, which is so exciting. But if everyone could use the chat and say one of their big takeaways, it could be a response to one of the questions, just like one thing you're leaving with. Constant clear communication equals this, or you're leaving with, we want to see this in the next FJC process. Put something real thoughtful in the chat because it's my favorite tool to use. I use the chat in all my classes. I'm chatting right now because I'm waiting for y'all to type your sentences. I do this a lot in ASPLU meetings. which, speaking of, we have an ASPLU meeting tonight. It'll start in about 7 minutes. So we're going to run from this Zoom meeting to another Zoom meeting. And if anyone's interested in attending that, why don't you send a private message to one of the ASPLU folks that are here, and they can identify themselves. But the ones I see on my screen right now are Cece, Olivia, Sid, Dylan, Seth, Corbin, AJ, Kenzie, Sheridan. Feel free to send them or the other folks who are commenting a note if you'd like to join our ASPLU meeting. We likely won't be talking much about FJC, but we're always talking about a million other things. But continue putting your takeaways in the chat. I want to see more than Zachary and Dylan in there. There's Kenzie, Rebecca. I know, y'all, this isn't the most glamorous practice, but it is important, especially because with all this information, folks who are your student representatives can bring this into conversation and kind of condense and synthesize these ideas. Faculty privacy, more student rep, ask questions about big changes. Quinn, that's a great point. I saw that on the board that the forum was scheduled at the same time as a Black History Month event. And I think that's another reason why it's helpful to record forums as well, right? It probably shouldn't have been scheduled for that time anyway, of course, but when you record a forum, it's viewable later and it doesn't just like go away. So yeah, great point. And yes, if you would like to attend the FJC forum later tonight, it's in the email that y'all received from Student Life today. It begins at 7:30 in about an hour. And it'll be dealing with those specific questions. Like I mentioned, the folks who are on the panel, I know Austin Byerman is hosting it. Austin used to be in ASPLU, and now he's in the Center for Student Success. And so it's a good group of folks if you have questions connected to that. The other place that I will point y'all, one of my ASPLU people is going to put this in the chat when I say it, but to the FJC FAQ page. So they did put out a video. That was one of ASPLU's recommendations, to put out a video from faculty members, and that's available. There's also a long list of FAQs. There's also a spot where you can ask a question and they can respond to it. So utilize that ask a question box. I think that's really important. At this point, I'll see if anybody else has any comments. Again, I want to thank y'all for bearing with us. I know it's not super glamorous, but this kind of work isn't glamorous, but it's so important. I'm going to put my email in the chat so y'all can contact me if you have any further questions. Hezi, do you have anything that you want to jump in with from an RHA perspective or anything? Want to share any contact info? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have anything to share, you're welcome to.
Oh no, you're fine. So we actually have a meeting this Thursday as well. So if you wanted to hop in and join, talking about some of the similar things as ASPLU. So let me know if you're interested.
Thank you, Hezi, and thanks for being here. And thank you to everyone else. Any final thoughts? So many people showed up. This is so many more people than I expected. Seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart, like very genuinely. I know y'all care so much about your campus, so thanks for being here and expressing that. I've talked so much today. I hope others talked in the breakout rooms. I will see folks in 3 minutes if you'd like to come to ASPLU, and if not, you will be hearing from me soon with updates to this conversation because it's a really crucial one.
Gracie, since everyone here has an @PLU, do you want me to put the link to the ASPLU meeting in the chat?
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine, Tina. Thank you. And
so if you want to go to ASPLU meeting, there you go. And one of the things that I will uplift is that Gracie and ASPLU have created these great Jamboards, and they're doing a great job of taking that information, looking at those patterns, and then really uplifting that to the administration and the VPs, presidents, council, folks like that.